Okay, so very important updates for you. First, President Trump just signed the Genius Act. I'm going to explain in this video why it matters to people like you and me. Also, Democrats are suffering from another devastating poll that just dropped. And Jerome Powell, he's continuing to catch heat. Now he's being criminally referred to the Department of Justice. We're going to get to all these stories in this video and give you the bottom line.
This is not an auto pen, by the way, which is a big scandal. If that were a Republican, it would really be a big scandal. But it is one of the great scandals of our time. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, so that was the president signing the Genius Act. And if you're like me, you're probably wondering, what is it? Why does it matter? Can you give me the bottom line? Of course, I'm going to do that for you. Now, to understand what the Genius Act is to understand what it's not about. This is not about regulating cryptocurrency as far as Bitcoin is concerned, not those type of cryptocurrencies. What they're talking about are stable coins. Now, the whole purpose of stable coins, just so you understand what they are, it's a digital version of the US dollar that you can use online to send payments back and forth without all of the red tape. What is an example of red tape? We're talking you don't need a bank account. You're not going to have to pay any fees. There is no waiting period. You could send the money instantly like that. That's what we're talking about and why stable coins are absolutely the future. The problem is for many, many years, it's never been regulated. Congress hasn't really paid attention, and there's been plenty of scams to go around. Now, I'm going to give you a practical example, but first, let's hear what the president had to say.
It's a very important act, the Genius Act. They named it after me, and I want to thank you. This is a hell of an act. This afternoon, we take a giant step to cement American dominance of global finance and crypto technology as we sign the landmark Genius Act into law. So congratulations to everybody. This is a big deal.
Okay, now before we get to what President Trump had to say, let me just give this message to you guys from today's sponsor, Chapter. As you know, if you are involved in getting Medicare or you're saving up to get Medicare because you're paying into the system, the whole process can be confusing and nearly nerve-wracking. And I actually believe it's on purpose. It is known that the Department of Justice, thanks to Trump, is now investigating the top 3 brokers in the nation for doing what exactly? Getting kickbacks in order to steer people like you into the wrong Medicare Advantage plans. This is why we partnered with Chapter and why I recommend you give them a call absolutely free, because they're independent, they're unbiased, and they have a record of saving people up to $1,100 a year. And their whole purpose in life is to help you get the plan that truly fits your needs. So give them a call, 323-431-5200. Again, this call can save you thousands of dollars.
Let me say the entire crypto community, for years, you were mocked and dismissed and counted out. You were counted out as little as a year and a half ago. But this signing is a massive validation. And even before this signing, over the last year and a half, I think your stuff has gone up more than any stock, or just about more. A couple of stocks that were pretty good, I will say. But you have certainly, as an industry, gone up more than anybody. Nobody's gained the respect in such a short period of time. But this signing is a massive validation of your hard work and your pioneering spirit and your ability to never give up, because a lot of people would have given up 2-3 years ago. So I want to thank you for contributing to the incredible strength of America. This is going to make it stronger, and congratulations on this incredible achievement.
Okay, so now let me give you some practical examples involved. First, I'm going to start with business, and then I'll end it with personal. From a business point of view, imagine if your customer could pay with a stable coin. Why does that matter? Because right now, if you guys were to donate to my show by going to the link in the description below and buying me a cup of coffee, I have to wait 7 days to receive the money. And there is a 4% fee on that transaction that they're getting by sending me the money. In a stable coin situation, there are no fees and the money comes instantly. You following what I'm saying? Now let's go personal. Let's say your granddaughter, grandson's going to college and you want to send them money. Same scenario. Let's say you have an Android and they have an iPhone. You can't send them Apple Cash. So what's the next thing? Maybe you want to send them PayPal. Yes, PayPal allows you to send to friends and family free. Same thing with Venmo, but there's only one problem. You have to have a bank account, and so do they. So what if you could just send them money without them having to have a bank account, and they can get the money instantly and use the money instantly? That's why stable coins are the future. Of course, they need to be regulated, and that's why this is a great step from the president.
I believe that crypto technology is going to power a large part of financial services as an industry in the near future. And the U.S. needs to be a leader. We're a leader in financial services. We should be a leader in all frontier technologies. And the stablecoin legislation is the first step in that, by allowing U.S. dollars and treasuries to be put on crypto technology in digital form. That opens the door to digitizing all kinds of real world assets, from stocks to eventually private equity, art. Anything can be powered by this technology. So we're excited to see the U.S. taking a big step in leadership.
Now, in case you don't know who he is, he's the CEO of Robinhood. And he's spot on about the future. There's no question that stable coins as they stand today, if regulated and officially backed by the U.S. dollar, are going to be much more efficient, much more secure to send payments back and forth without the red tape. And that's why I look forward to it. However, there is a downside to it, and that is a central bank currency, which is something that we don't want, obviously, as conservatives. Democrats act like that is something that they want, which would be pretty much a globalist agenda, in my opinion. But in this bill, it does not support that. In fact, the House passed a bill to prevent a CBC from forming. So again, more to obviously discuss as time goes on and this actually gets implemented. But as it stands today, this was a great move from the president. Now let's go to our next story. Now we're shifting to Democrats because they got bad news once again. I mean, every day is bad news for Democrats. But as you know, I like to show you both sides. And I always like to show you the newest poll that supports what I'm saying. And here it is. Take a look.
Well, the Democratic Party is still searching now for new direction. This is approval numbers for congressional Democrats plunge to an all-time low. Just 19% of voters approve of the job those lawmakers are doing in Washington.
Here's what's so important. You know, we talk about the potential of Republicans leaving Donald Trump. They're not leaving him. But what about congressional Democrats and problems with their own base? Democrats' net approval of congressional Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University, in June of 2025, it was their second worst ever at minus 12 points. It's that not low enough for you? How about we go even lower? In July of 2025, minus 13 points, their worst net approval rating for congressional Democrats among Democrats ever. Donald Trump is not the one who has problems with his political base. It is congressional Democrats are the ones who have problems with their own political base.
Yeah, of course they have problems with their political base because they've been radicalizing them for quite some time now. And the fact that they've been using extreme hyperbolic language with their base, they're totally upset and disconnected because they can't act on that type of language they've been using against the president of the United States. So when you're calling the president Hitler and an existential threat to our democracy, I mean, physically, what can you really do about that? There's nothing they can do. And because Democrats don't see their leaders doing something physically to the president, in some cases, a certain percentage of them want them to take the president out literally in assassination stuff. No wonder they are just down and out. Now, the whole point of me bringing up this story and the numbers is to talk about what is trending right now at the moment, and that is the socialist communist out of New York City who continues to get the attention from Democrats because they're at a crossroads. Do we go down this road and support a candidate like this and lean in on our socialistic ideals, or do we dial it back and get closer to the center? I think you guys know what they're planning to do. And here's an example of that. Elizabeth Warren just said this morning.
He said, we've got a problem with entire food deserts where people can't get access to grocery stores. Said, I'd like to take a look at whether or not we can have some kind of, you know, like we do on military bases, you have some kind of support from the city government that says we're going to get some food grocery stores in areas that right now are food deserts. And by the way, it's a new and fresh plan for New York City, but it's been tried in other cities around the country and has had some real successes. So what I hear Mamdani saying is, I want to try things to make it work for working families. And you know what? This is how democracy works. A lot of people in New York City said, that sounds good to me. I'd rather try that than any of the other alternatives available to me.
I would imagine the only people in New York City who are supporting a government-run grocery store are individuals who don't understand the concept that someone has to pay for it, right? So you're not going to print money out of the sky. And as my mother used to tell me when I was a child, money don't grow on trees. So who's actually going to pay for this? Oh, yeah, that's right. The taxpayer. So this is something that socialist individuals don't understand. And this is why in recorded history, socialism is not actually the best form of government. A limited democracy, which is what we have in America called a republic, that is the best form of government so far in recorded history, because even a bum in our country is richer than most people in the world. And that's why I say that. Now, to go back to Mondani and his ridiculous policies, he's now catching heat for not only supporting government-run grocery stores, but believing that you should not own your own property.
Like, this fact is very significant. Of the 12 Democrats who represent the 5 boroughs of New York City in Congress, 4 have endorsed him. 4 of 12. I mean, you have to go deep into history to find something that would compare. We just heard a clip from an interview he did leading up to the primary vote. Here is a newly resurfaced video from August of 2020 talking about what people should own and why. Just watch here.
My platform is that I'm saying to abolish it, but my platform is to decommodify it. My platform is that every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
Okay, so before I show you what Kevin McCarthy had to say, let's just address the thinking of Mr. Mondani and why it is totally flawed. According to him, and really socialists in this world, they want to make sure everybody's on a level playing field. The problem with that is it comes from a victimization mindset, which means people will actually be poorer because they're being held back by their potential. So they want to punish people who are successful in order to try to help people who are unsuccessful. Now, just imagine how much they're going to have to charge in taxes if Mr. Mondani got his way. Just do the math.
Are Democrats going to buy this?
Well, they're doing nothing to stop it. This party is moving towards the socialist wing. And there's a couple indications. Look, this is a party in transition, trying to find a leader. The current leaders can't make up their mind. It shows the weakness of Hakeem. He is literally from New York. Instead of engaging in this primary race, he can't make a decision. Now the Democrat nominee is decided. He still can't make a decision. But who's leading? AOC. She is bringing the nominee to Washington, D.C. She has been leading. And remember how she got elected. She took out a sitting member of Congress, not just anyone, but he was in the leadership. So if you're leaders of the Democratic Party and you believe the party should move maybe to the middle, but you say nothing, you get run over. And one thing about Mondani, he's not afraid to tell his position.
Yeah, he's absolutely spot on about that. He's not afraid to share his positions. That's why most people know what they are at this point, and they're absolutely radical. Now, of course, I always show you the examples of what I'm saying. Here's Mr. Mondani himself acknowledging that he doesn't see the purpose of prisons in our country. Take a look.
Are prisons obsolete?
Whew, coming through with the quotes, coming through with the titles of the books. I have to read that, actually. I haven't read that as yet. But I think that, frankly, what purpose do they serve? Right? I think we have to ask ourselves that, which is that, I think a lot of people who defend the carceral state, they defend the idea of it and the way it makes them feel.
Yeah, of course, the way he thinks is flawed. There is a purpose for prisons out there. We know that. And I don't think we even have to go into depth about why that is. However, let me explain to you why this matters, just like the first time I had to talk to him. If he gets elected New York City mayor, that's a foreshadowing for the Democrat Party. They will go in that direction. Book it, okay? because he's winning elections. And at the end of the day, results tell the story. So that means Democrats will lean in on what he was doing in order to win elections. Now, why does that matter to people like you and me? It means we not only need to continue to educate ourselves, but we got to continue to vote the right people into office who's going to fight against people like him. That's why this is important. Now, in case you need a refresher on how dangerous this individual is and where Democrats are really going, look at his policies.
Some of the policies, by the way, billions of dollars in new taxes for New Yorkers here in the city, rent freezes for certain apartments, free public buses, city-controlled grocery stores, like communist style, $30 an hour minimum wage. So it's going to double the minimum wage and crush small and medium-sized businesses, and they'll just hire fewer people, no doubt. And he wants to defund police.
Okay, so I would say the bottom line to Mr. Mondani and Democrats is nobody's shocked at what the polls are saying. I think it's going to continue to get worse. They made this bed. They radicalized their base. They can't meet the rhetoric that they kept feeding their base with physical action because, again, this is a republic, all right? And they're not going to do anything to the president of the United States physically unless they want to go to prison and be charged with treason. I don't know. But bottom line is this is why the numbers are what they are. And people like Mr. Mondani should be snuffed out immediately, in my opinion, politically. Now, let's go to our next story, and that is Jerome Powell. Because not only has he been catching heat from the president like almost every single day, they now are seeking to launch an investigation into his renovations that cost up to $2.5 billion for his office building. Can someone tell me why an office building would cost $2.5 billion? That's more than an NFL stadium.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is responding to the Trump administration's accusations that he's mismanaging renovations at the central bank here in Washington. Last week, Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought suggested in a social media post that Powell wasn't complying with U.S. government oversight regulations related to the Fed's $2.5 billion overhaul. And now Chairman Powell is pushing back against those claims point by point.
All right, so Representative Anna Paulina Luna is the one who referred Jerome Powell for criminal investigation, okay? What this means is she's recommending the Department of Justice to look into Jerome Powell and how he committed perjury to Congress by not disclosing that he was going to spend $2.5 billion on an office building. Now, overall, the way that I see this is politics, okay? They're continuing to try to find ways to apply pressure to Jerome Powell to do one thing in the end, lower rates. I mean, let's get real. That's exactly what's going on here. And if they got to get him fired, they'll do that. But of course, the president does not want to fire him, okay? Because if he does that, the markets will react and not in a good way. So they got to get creative here. Now, I don't know how you feel, but ultimately, I do believe Jerome Powell should at least lower rates, even just to test it out for 90 days, okay? And allow the government to refinance on the debt, allow people in the economy to borrow money at a lower rate just temporarily. And if things don't get out of hand, maybe you could keep it that way. If they start to indicate that they're about to get out of hand, he can go back to where it was. I don't see why he won't do that. I think it has more to do with politics than it does common sense. But that's just me.
This is a point-by-point rebuttal by the chair of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, responding to that letter from the director of the Budget Office, who essentially was claiming that Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve was breaking the law and going over budget on this renovation of the Federal Reserve's headquarters in Washington, D.C. And essentially, this letter points out that they did not, the Federal Reserve and the board did not have to go to this National Capital Planning Commission to seek approval for these plans, but they did anyways because they wanted to be transparent. There is a line in this letter that we have heard Jerome Powell use when he's talking about combating inflation, trying to do what's best for the American people, and it's kind of a familiar refrain that is also in this letter. He says, "We take seriously the responsibility to be good stewards of public resources as we fulfill the duties given to us by Congress on behalf of the American people." And he goes on to point out that there are no VIP dining rooms. There are no VIP elevators. In fact, these elevators are being expanded to accommodate people with disabilities. And a lot of the renovations, Wolf, he says, are for safety reasons. This is a building from the 1930s. He says that they're working on cleaning out asbestos. They're working on cleaning out lead.
Like I just stated earlier, there's no reason why the federal chair office building requires a $2.5 billion renovation. I just don't see how it's worth that amount of money. I mean, I'm not into construction like that. I'm not an expert in that field, but I'm also not an idiot. $2.5 billion, you better be building the best building in this entire country if it's going to cost that amount of money. Let's just get real. And what's the return on investment on that exactly? Yeah, there is none. So this is the problem with the federal government in particular, and people who are high up the totem pole, is they get to make decisions that are in their own interest. And in this situation, that's exactly what this is. Nobody's stupid here, Mr. Jerome Powell. Come on, let's get real. Speaking of getting real, will he be investigated and ultimately convicted of a crime? I don't think so. But this doesn't mean that this is another tactic to apply pressure to hopefully get him to resign, quit, or possibly be fired if they do end up convicting him, okay? Which really sounds crazy in today's world. Now, here's what Speaker Johnson had to say.
Mr. Speaker, do you think that Jay Powell is going to be around till May? We're trying to figure out exactly how to handicap that at this point. Do you think he should be around in May? Is there, I guess, people that wishes that he wouldn't, if he would resign, that's probably would be easier, or that's probably not going to happen, though. What do you think? How does this play out in your view?
I'm as anxious to see how that plays out as you are. I will tell you that the sentiment here, certainly my opinion, is that we should reduce interest rates. The American economy is hot, and we have so many good things going on. We're delivering over and over the Republican majority here for the American people, not just the one big, beautiful bill, not just with the rescissions package that we passed last night, clawing back $9 billion of wasted taxpayer funds.
If it's too hot, you don't want to cut rates.
Yes, except that the sectors of the economy right now that are giving us the most concern is, as the president's discussed, like with home ownership. You know, you've got a lot of young people and, well, people of all ages who are having a hard time getting into the real estate market because they can't afford the interest rates on a home, and it affects purchases of automobiles and all large ticket items. If you reduce that, I don't say slash interest rates, but do something that's meaningful to get that humming again, because that will last. It'll have a lasting effect. And if you combine that with the other things that are happening, I think it would have the greatest economy in the history of the world.
All right, let me give you guys a perfect example of what's going on here. As you guys know, we're moving from California to Texas. This is why this entire week I've had a different background in my video because we've had to stay at Airbnbs and hotels while we're waiting for our stuff to be delivered. Now, the house that we're living in, I am renting. The reason why I'm renting is because I don't feel comfortable buying a house right now, not at the way that the rates are, and I'd rather invest that money into the stock market and other investments I have on the side. Bottom line is what? Well, the people who tried to purchase the home, which led to the homeowner wanting to rent it, 3 separate families attempted to buy it and couldn't because the banks denied all 3 of them. Now, why is that? Because it's hard to borrow money right now. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, Jerome Powell needs to lower the rates, just even if it's temporary, in my opinion. Now, speaking of that, let's get your opinion in the comment section below to both of these stories. Now, obviously, it's bad news for Democrats as usual. It happens every single day. But every time they come out with a poll, I love to share it with you guys. So give me your reaction to that, of course. And also the fact that President Trump signed the Genius Act into law. Again, I told you guys the benefits of stable coins and why it is the future. Let me know, have you guys used stable coins before? Do you have any cryptocurrency yourself? And do you see the value in this particular bill? And finally, let me know if you agree with the fact that Jerome Powell should at least temporarily reduce rates at the moment to at least give the economy a jump start, right? Or to at least allow the federal government to refinance the interest on our debt. Just give me all your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, in our next video, it is also good news because NPR and PBS, they're now getting defunded. This comes as the Senate did pass the rescission package from the White House that defunds these organizations. Now, of course, the reaction from people is now going to be Armageddon, and rural areas are going to suffer. Now, of course, I show you the facts, and get to the bottom line of that matter. So if you guys want to check out that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.